A Detroit landlord says that the eviction moratorium isn't fair after more than half of her tenants stopped paying rent. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Detroit, Michigan. Now, this is a story about a landlord and what they're going through during this eviction moratorium and how they really don't believe that any of this is fair. And I agree with them. None of this is fair to landlords, and especially the smaller landlords who really can't last that long without getting paid. But before I get into that article, go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you want to see on this channel. I'm going to work to keep bringing you articles about the eviction moratorium and other news that's of interest to landlords. So, this article comes from detroit.cbslocal.com, and it says, "Landlord speaks out on eviction ban. Says moratorium isn't fair." Yeah, it's not fair, okay? It's not constitutional. It's not lawful. And the truth of the matter is that we are the ones who are being put into this awful situation by government overreach. But let's get into the article and see exactly what it says. As the eviction moratorium continues to protect thousands of renters, some landlords say they're at risk of losing their properties after going months without being paid. And a lot of them are not paying because they know they cannot get evicted, said Tawanda Hall, a property owner in Detroit. Tawanda Hall says she owns 10 units in Detroit, but only 5 tenants are paying rent. One lady, 6 months, said Hall. She keeps saying she's going to move, but she hasn't, and there's not much I can do. Yeah, okay. A lot of these places, you have a lot of tenants who are just not paying rent. And to make matters worse, okay, like some of these people, they don't even qualify for the eviction moratorium because they didn't face any kind of financial distress. They didn't lose their job or any of that. But the local municipalities, the local governments just completely shut down the eviction courts, making it impossible to remove even the worst tenants. And, you know, these people are just stuck with them, just stuck with these leeches in their property, you know. So I tell everybody that there are so many bills that are required that a landlord pay, whether they have their property completely paid off or not. But the majority of landlords actually have mortgages on their property. So the mortgage, okay, on top of that, you have to pay the property taxes. On top of that, you have to pay the insurance. In some cases, landlords pay utilities and, of course, the maintenance. So if an air conditioner goes out in a unit, you have to repair it still because, according to the law, the landlord is still responsible to make sure that their tenant stays in a livable property. So, yeah, landlords are on the hook for lots of money. And if they don't qualify for rental assistance, or if the tenant doesn't want to cooperate with rental assistance, the landlord's just screwed and they're just eating these losses. So that's why the eviction process is absolutely necessary. That way we can get these bad tenants out of our properties and get somebody in there who is paying. But a lot of people, they just don't see that, okay? They just don't see all the problems that a lot of small landlords especially that have to deal with. Hall says since even before the pandemic, she has been flexible in working out payment plans for tenants. But now she says she's being taken advantage of. They're not going to be able to put out until who knows when, said Hall. Last week, the Center for Disease Control extended the eviction moratorium through October 3rd. The current eviction ban protects residents who live in areas with substantial to high COVID-19 transmission rates. Yeah, then they make that sound like that's just a little small area, but the truth of the matter is that actually covers 80% of the land area of the country and 90% of the country's population. So that's a grand majority of the country is covered under this new CDC eviction moratorium. And that, I mean, it doesn't matter if it only covered one family, okay? This thing's unlawful. It's unconstitutional. And I've gone over the reasons that I believe it's unconstitutional because I think it's a unconstitutional taking of private property without just compensation, okay? Violation of the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution. So, yeah, it just bothers the heck out of me that they even allowed this to go on. And I'm hoping the court shut it down. I was hoping that more local and state politicians would step up and say, hey, we can't follow this unconstitutional eviction moratorium, but enough haven't done that yet. I know the state of Tennessee has, and I believe that a couple of counties in Ohio have as well, but they're the only ones that I've even read about doing such a thing. So, man, let's see if we can just get this thing shut down through the legal process, and if it has to be through the Supreme Court, because that way none of the lower courts can say anything about it. Took a couple to court, and the court system has been pushing the dates back even after you get a court date, said Hall. The COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Program helps both landlords and tenants by paying back the rent owed. Although landlords can initiate the application process, they need the tenant's participation for approval. The city is still wanting their tax money, and even though I'm in a payment arrangement, the interest is still building upon the money that I owe, and I can't get anyone else into my properties because these people are holding the houses up, said Hall. So yeah, there's a couple of points in there that I just want to make clear for people, okay? First of all, the city still wants their money, okay? They still want their property taxes. And she doesn't have the money to pay the taxes because she's not getting rental income. So if she doesn't pay the taxes, they charge her interest. How isn't that hilarious how that works out? Now, she owes the city. The city could eventually take her property from her because, she didn't pay her taxes. Now, would it be amazing to you if a landlord lost their property because their tenant wasn't paying rent, she couldn't evict the tenant, she didn't have the income to pay her taxes, and then that's a government grab, I mean, it's wrong. And that's exactly why these things are unlawful. Okay, people, they don't see the full story when they look at, the eviction moratorium will help these tenants to have a place to live. You have to see the full picture, okay? There's more going on here than a lot of people even realize. Now, the other point that I want to point out is they say that landlords can initiate the application process on this rental assistance, right? But they need the tenant's participation for approval. So if the tenant doesn't participate, the landlord gets nothing from these rental assistance programs. And this is what a lot of small landlords are running into, okay? They're having tenants that didn't participate or who just completely skip out and won't respond to mail or don't even have a forwarding address or a forwarding phone number. So the landlord just loses out on 12 plus months where they possibly could have gotten rental assistance just because this tenant did not cooperate. And that is just wrong, okay? And that's why these eviction moratoriums shouldn't be in the place in the first place. I mean, part of the reason why, on top of them being unconstitutional. According to the CERA website, landlords will have the ability to complete all application fields and uploads in the next few weeks. Tenants will be notified to confirm the information submitted. Well, how do you notify a tenant if you don't have their forwarding information? If you don't have their email address, if you don't have their phone number, if you don't have their address, and they didn't give you their new information, their new contact information. So the landlord can fill out all these applications and it'd be 100% irrelevant because they won't qualify for anything. They will not qualify for anything without the tenant's participation. So that will leave a lot of landlords out in the cold. So yeah, this landlord in Detroit, I hope that she's able to survive. I hope she's able to get through everything. But things are not looking good for small landlords anywhere in the country, and especially in very landlord-friendly places. And I know Detroit is one of those places.